It's almost like we're doing a downward spiral in dumbness today. But thanks to Dan Bongino, um, Don Jr. has a lot of work to do. Now let's see. There'll be an ad, won't there, on this stupid thing? Yep.
Pizza or salad?
Guys,
Which one do you think I'm having for dinner tonight?
I'm having salad.
Well, guys, sometimes you hate to be.
Okay, guys. Sometimes you got. Okay, guys. I just started my video, so I gotta say, okay, guys.
Which is an old Italian word, which means sucka.
All the time. And I'm going to be that guy. Okay, that's not a humble brag. It's true.
Wait, what? I missed your humble brag.
Well, guys, sometimes you hate to be right all the time.
No, I don't. No, I quite enjoy it. I feel like I'm... Hi.
What happened upstairs?
What do you mean what happened?
Why did it smell?
Oh, because of gnat spray. I cleaned up most of it. Huh? A little bit of it. Because there were...
All the cat food.
I cleaned that.
I'm going to be...
You spilled the gnat spray? Or did you spray it?
I was spraying it on the counter.
Yeah, it goes in.
Yeah, I'm aware. Thank you. I got it. Don't worry.
No, it's
They were
fine.
gnats.
I just want to make sure I knew it.
That's what it was.
But I walked into.
They were gnats. I got it. Yeah. Thank you. Love you. Next time I will leave all bug killing to you.
Just a note of like chemicals in use.
No, that's why I washed around that area. That's why it's all right.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Never. All right. Well, next time we're overrun with insects, I will just make you get out of bed.
that guy. Okay, that's not a humble brag. It's true.
No, by the way, it's never been true. There's never been a situation where Don Jr. has been right about anything. He has reading and visual comprehension skills at or below Dan Bongino standards. Hi, Gonzo.
Because I'm watching generals on TV today talking about the situation in Taiwan with China. Now, any of you who've been following my channel realize I've been talking about this for over a month. Remember when I was...
You've been talking about it since they've been making flights and since the UK and the United States have sent warships to the area. And then we have nuclear subs now docking in Australia specifically about this. You've been talking about it
For almost a month, which is, if anyone's looking at the calendar, guys, means I started talking about it a week after it was in the news, and guys.
Afghan video post and said, not only is it a disaster that we're leaving Americans behind, that we're abandoning our allies that we fought alongside with for...
Oh, you mean the special immigrant visa program that your dad and Stephen Miller hamstrung while he was in office, and he could have gotten those people out well before the May 1st deadline just by establishing a plan to do that, but he blew it off entirely because he never intended to let the Afghans come here?
Years that we're leaving $60+ billion worth of equipment.
Get your numbers right. Your dad says 86 to 89 billion. You're saying 60 plus. It's nowhere near that number. 60 plus would be the number that was in training and materials for the Afghan forces, up to the point where Obama was destroying stuff before we left that time and getting things out of there. There was probably $12 billion worth of material goods still in the country between our stuff and stuff we were leaving for the Afghanistan military. The Afghanistan military is stuff we don't use anymore. It's too low rung, but we pass it on to them because we're good like that. And they were going to keep that stuff, and we demilitarized it if they weren't going to take it when we were leaving the country, and we took all our stuff. This is just dumb.
To a terrorist regime. We just let it fall into their hands in 11 days. But I also said
So you're good. So you consider them a terrorist regime because they're fighting ISIS now. Trump's a big fan of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Nothing? No.
Terrible is the rest of the world is watching. And you know who's been watching? Our allies in Taiwan.
Yes, we know. Hold on one second. U.S., U.K. send ships to Now, here's a good example. Who thinks that that Trump couldn't have sent a U.S. warship through the Taiwan Strait at any point during his presidency? It just didn't work. Like the ships we had during Trump's presidency were just too big; they wouldn't fit, or they just didn't have a free one around. Nothing? Any of that? Okay. Biden did this, started this on February 4th. U.S. Navy ship sailed through the Taiwan Strait on Thursday for the first time since President Joe Biden took power. USS John McCain, it's meant to be a dig. Ship's transit demonstrated the U.S. commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific, he said, adding the military would continue to fly, sail, and operate anywhere international law allows. Wang Wenbin, a spokesperson for the China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, told a media briefing that his country had been closely monitoring the warship. China will continue to maintain a high level of alert at all times, respond to all threats and provocations. Yeah, they did not. Tensions between the United States and China ramped up under the Trump administration, which increased support for Taiwan through arms sales and visited by U.S. senior officials. They were already heightened by a disagreement over the South China Seas, Hong Kong, coronavirus, and trade. In one of his acts as Secretary of State, Pompeo lifted the restrictions on contacts between American and Taiwanese officials. China views Taiwan, and blah, blah, blah. We know this. Blinken voiced a strong bipartisan commitment. Here we go. Since the 1970s, the U.S. has officially only recognized Beijing, and the State Department said on Wednesday its support of a one China policy over Taiwan has not changed. Under the policy, the U.S. recognizes the People's Republic of China as the sole legal government and does not have formal diplomatic relations with China. However, Pompeo's successor, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, voiced a strong bipartisan commitment to Taiwan in his Senate confirmation hearing last week. Part of the commitment is making sure that Taiwan has the ability to defend itself against aggression, and that is a commitment that will absolutely endure in a Biden administration. He added that there was no doubt China posed the most significant challenge to the U.S. of any nation. Guys, we also still have a ship parked off there with the UK ship.
And you know who else has been watching? As I said, Russia, but most importantly, China.
Russia.
Why? What's Russia been doing? Besides prepping for war with China if China decides to take back the northern parts of their country that they said Russia took, which was just released in an article that was found that had been written about, 8-10 years ago?
Real threat. The biggest threat. Okay? Not the nonsense that they're telling us in America is the biggest threat, right? White supremacy. Now, guys, that's CNN narrative nonsense. The biggest...
No, hi, dum-dum. Again, the white supremacy domestic terror threat is the biggest racially motivated domestic terror threat that we face as a country. The top two are variations of white supremacy. The third one is a black supremacy movement. Those are the three top racially motivated domestic terror organizations or threats in the United States. That is not worldwide our biggest threat. Nobody has ever said that. This is, again, a reading comprehension problem amongst the Adderall and cocaine set.
Threat is China. And over the last few days, they have had...
Yeah, check your notes.
...largest incursion...
146 airplanes.
...into Taiwanese airspace by Chinese Air Force ever, okay? In multiple waves, we saw 3 straight days of the Chinese Air Force sending dozens of aircraft, mostly fighters, near Taiwan, okay? Mm-hmm. It's as though they're preparing for war, and...
Yeah, is it?
Taiwan is acting accordingly. Taiwan watched America, its strongest ally, someone who said that they'd be there to defend them, right?
We will be, along with Japan and the UK.
In their own people. Do the Taiwanese really think America's going to be there to back them? Remember when I...
Yes, we have ships in the region. Yes, We just gave Australia nuclear-powered submarines. They're going to make their own. You know what's going to happen until they make their own? Should we bring that up too? U.S. nuclear subs to Australia ports. Let's see if I can find it. There you go. This is what's happening. US is seeking basing in Australia after submarine deal. The Biden administration is hoping to rotate fighters and bombers to the land down under. US President Joe Biden's administration is hoping to secure more US military basing rights in the region, multiple current and former officials told Foreign Policy. In the wake of a landmark deal to build nuclear-powered submarines with Britain and Australia, plans to bring a rotation of US fighters and bombers to northern Australia. Why the north? Why, that's the closest area to China. Will be raised at a remote ministerial meeting between the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and their Australian counterparts, officials said. Two top Biden administration national security officials, Kurt Campbell and Rush Doshi, briefed officials and experts on the plan for the Australian to field nuclear-powered submarines during a call Wednesday night. During the call, described to Foreign Policy by one participant, the official said the deal could eventually extend to include long-range precision strike weapons. The agency France Press first reported that Australia would receive Tomahawk missiles. They're also, let me see if they can find a place, and here you go. The new plans represent one of the most audacious steps the Biden administration is taking yet to shore up alliances in the Asia-Pacific and expand its military footprint amid geopolitical competition. With who? Who did that? Like, I'd have thought we would have been better off pouring our resources into the desert in Afghanistan than Australia. But it's also drawn criticism, including from fellow NATO ally France, that had plans to sell Australia submarines that were not nuclear powered, and that the Chinese can hear underwater fairly easily using standard sonar, which they cannot do with the nuclear class submarines that you're talking about that the US has brought. France, along with the EU, also just signed a deal with China for as part of its Belt and Road Initiative plans throughout Europe in December of last year, knowing that the Biden administration would frown on it and wanting to get it in place before Trump left office. So get fucked. Which had a multi-billion-dollar contract to build Australia's new submarines. No, they didn't. They had a multi-billion contract to build new submarines for Australia. Not Australia's new submarines, because Australia's new submarines are going to be nuclear powered. Love the Oz. You almost have it. You almost nailed it. I'm trying. It takes a bit of work. Sometimes you got to go and talk in it for a while. You know what I mean? It needs you got to ramp up into an Australian accent. You got to talk about it for 12 or 15 hours, and then you're all in. Then you're stuck. Then try getting out. Never happened. The move underscores new Italian Prime Minister Scott Morrison's Conservative government is growing increasingly concerned about Chinese Navy's rapid growth. Yeah, they're building a bunch of tin subs and rolling them around the Indo-Pacific with the People's Liberation Army, which, can I just say, Army Navy, the People's Liberation Army Navy. Guys, China, rename your military, pal, because you don't need liberation anymore. Imagine if the American military was called the American Revolutionary Army now, because we fought it in a revolutionary war, or the American Civil War military, the Union Army of the Northern United States. See what I mean? It's dumb. Though U.S. officials have denied announcement is connected to China, it is. The fielding of submarines would give the Pacific ally more military capability to resist Chinese coercion. It's hard to overstate how significant a moment this is for the Australian defence planning. You think? It reflects sharp concerns in the Morrison government about the deteriorating security environment in the Indo-Pacific, China's military buildup, and Beijing's use of coercive power. Yeah, here it is. Further rotations. Let's see. In the past, U.S. has looked at RAAF-based Tyndall. Yeah, and Australia's Northern Territory is a spot for possible flight rotations. More than 2,000 Marines are stationed in Darwin, Australia, on a temporary basis, which is near where China has sought to lease a port facility, which they have, and then they're being turned away. Yeah, they actually have had this lease for a long time, and they're telling them to fuck off. The submarine launch makes Australia just the second U.S. ally to receive nuclear-powered submarine technology after Britain would have implications for the Pentagon's undersea posture. The Defense Department would require more rotational bases for its submarines in Perth. Here it is. In Perth, Australia, where Australia's fleet of diesel-electric guided missile submarines are currently based. Now, the diesel ones you can hear with sonar. The nuclear-powered subs run really quiet, yeah? That's why they're freaking out. China doesn't like it. Plus, they have an untested Navy. They'll get their ass handed to them. It's pretty terrible. But this goober will say anything the Chinese government once said against Joe Biden.
Really said, whatever China's timeline was, whatever it was for taking...
Well, the buildup happened largely in the last 4 years. And we now know that they were buying PCR tests because of a new coronavirus that they had detected in May of 2019. Almost nearly a full year before your dad admitted it existed.
Over Taiwan. And there's always been a timeline, right? There's always been a timeline, folks. But whatever it was, it's been rapidly accelerated. It took a month to further that escalation, right?
Because of AUKUS. They're flexing muscle around Taiwan because they don't have long before those votes get in place. Plus, the nuclear subs are already there. I'm just telling you. If they launch a strike against Taiwan, they want it. They want the land. So they're not going to nuke it. They're not going to strafe bomb it. Doesn't do them any good. They've got to do it by soldiers on the ground. They might be able to hit some key points with airstrikes, but they would have to actually put 2 million soldiers on the ground. They got to bring those people in boats. Those boats have to make the trip. They're not going to make the trip.
It took a month. I'm calling it. And now a month later, I'm watching generals on TV say, wow, that's sort of what happens. How am I ahead of all of these guys? Right?
You're not. You're not. You're speaking rando boilerplate based on half stories you've seen on Fox News and notes you've gotten from the Heritage Foundation. You're not ahead of them.
This is what happens when Biden, Blinken, Kerry, and the elitists are in charge.
The elitists. Yes, that's how I think of them. The dude who took a train the entire during his entire House and Senate career.
They cede ground to the Chinese. No one cares. So I believe it's a total.
I'm sorry. They cede ground. They cede ground to the Chinese. Is that what they did? Biggest order of beef, corn, and soybeans. Anybody?
But I've read a total of 93 Chinese bombers have flown into Taiwan.
148.
Airspace.
And they're not bombers. They're airplanes. March, let's see, where's the 6th? Third military plane, China test war. So let's see if they had the surge of military planes. There we go. Do they have a list of the? There you go. 2 H-6 bombers, 22 fighter jets was the first group. That night, another 2 H-6 bombers and 10 J-16 fighters. Saturday, 39 Chinese military planes, including fighter jets, 2 anti-submarine aircraft, and an early warning and control plane entered the Taiwanese zone, again breaking the daily record. 16 more planes, including a dozen fighter jets, cut into a corner of the same area. These aren't bombers. There's a lot of jets in there. They're just sending a spattering of everything. And they're doing this basically to impress their own people because they're trying to gin up nationalism. By the way, this whole thing with Taiwan is Xi Jinping wagging the dog. No, there were bombers. He's saying there were 59 bombers. There were by no means 59 bombers. Did you read what I said? Included 2 H-6 bombers, 22 fighter jets, 10 fighter jets, and the same 2 H-6 bombers, by the way, 39 military, including fighter jets, 2 anti-submarine aircraft, and an early warning plane. Is that what he said?
You know, that's sort of what happens. How am I ahead of all of these guys, right? This is what happens when Biden, Blinken, Kerry, and the elitists are in charge, okay? They cede ground to the Chinese. No one cares, so I believe it's a total...
I did not say there were no bombers. I said they weren't bombers. There were not 59 bombers. Let's see what he says.
And I've read a total of 93 Chinese bombers have flown into...
Sorry, what was that again? What was that again, dum-dum? A total of what?
No one cares, so I believe it's a total of, and I've read, a total of 93 Chinese bombers have flown into Taiwan.
Not even close to fucking true. 146 planes total, the same bombers, 6 in total. In pairs of 2, as far as bombers. For fuck's sake. It's exactly what I said. He said 93 bombers passed over. It's not even close to true.
Airspace over the last 3 days, right? We've warned...
No, not right. Fucking dumb. Yes, 2 have. They fly through the corner of the airspace as a fuck you to Taiwan. They're not flying over the country. They're entering the airspace and then leaving the airspace. Is it them testing? Absolutely. Are they being provocative? Of course they are. Why are they doing it? They're doing it because... I'll show you why. Because the Chinese people are just like all other people. They get really pissed off when shit is going badly at home. And one of the ways you can get them behind nationalism is the idea that you're going to, a war would do it. Is that you could tip that we're about to have a war, we're going to have a war. Don't doubt your government. And right now, they are pissed. The Chinese people are pissed. And there's always been an idea that in China that one big national problem can destroy a regime. And in the case of, it ends a dynasty. And a lot of people have believed that that COVID counts as one by itself. The flooding and the power outages have also would on their own qualify. This is hideous. And again, why? Why? And by the way, this leads to the whole Australian thing. Because China has relied largely on Australian coal. And Xi Jinping, in an act of moronic nationalism, and now they're seizing it, the stuff that's in the docks. China's releasing Australian coal from bonded storage despite a year-long unofficial import ban on the fuel as it scrambles to ease a power crunch. The power crisis... They've basically just folded back on it in the last 2 days because it's so bad. And the reason why did they start releasing it 2 days ago? India buying Australian coal from Chinese ports. Indian firms have bought nearly 2 million tons of Australian thermal coal that has been sitting in warehouses at the Chinese ports. India snaps up cheap Australian coal sitting at Chinese ports 6 days ago. India buys 2 million tons of inexpensive coal. That's why. That's what all this shit is about. Do you think he has any idea about any of that part of it? The geopolitical aspects of the energy crisis there, the flooding there, the absolute like storming for the doors exit of manufacturing in the country as the United States and the EU start moving factories both back home and to other countries we have better relationships with? Do you think any of the trolls who are in here have any fucking clue about what's going on in China right now? They just going to buy it from this dickhead?
Against these provocative military activity. But China knows that Joe Biden is weak. China knows that America under his leadership is weak. So
why was it Joe Biden that gave nuclear submarines to Australia and started parking them at ports in northern Australia when your dad could have? He could have. But he didn't. Why not? I guess he wanted to finish that three-phase Chinese trade deal that he finished the first phase of, and they only honored a third of it.
They're going to keep doing it, right? I called it a month ago. Now it seems that people who have been in the highest levels of military are now calling it out and realizing it. But how is it that I can see this stuff?
You didn't see that. You didn't see anything. You didn't. You didn't see that we've sent warships through the Taiwanese Strait since February. You didn't see that we've got one parked off there now. You didn't see the AUKUS agreement. We're not going to start a war with China out of nowhere. And we're not. And every time they're curtailing China's expansion, whether it's the G7 or the G20 or with our own trade, our own development of things, they're not going to even say China's name because that's the way you stir up the nationalistic fervor of the people. If you just go, no, we're just doing our thing, it's hard for them to weaponize. And China has been doing a lot of saber rattling lately, but they're stretched really fucking thin. How about this? Maybe you think Junior knows this? Let's see. Let's see if I can find this. There you go. This is the same thing. Do you think do you think the Chinese think that Prime Minister Modi is weak? Because the troops, physical troops, ground troops, went into Indian territory August 30th, right about the time we were leaving Afghanistan. You think he knows that? China has a border nightmare and and dwindling resources. China couldn't close its borders if it built a new wall just like the old one all around the whole fucking country, which would be impossible. Nonsense. And they've been having these fist fights with Indian troops, but this has been a running issue lately. And they, like last year, and they were having these weird fist fights in areas where they can't bring weapons. Well, China started bringing weapons in. They're not supposed to put any kind of military gear there. They've been putting anti-aircraft weapons there. China and India are fighting over water. It's fucked up. And the minute China decides to go all in on Taiwan with everything they have, the Indian army will push back and seize Tibet. Because they're going to have to put everybody on Taiwan to win it.
We don't get it. How is it that the people making the decisions and those leaders that are very worried about critical race theory and wanting to learn about white rage...
Oh, that little bunny fuck you is back.
and couldn't see what was happening in
Careful,
Afghanistan.
House Sparks. They might not let you come back. They're not going to let me come back anytime soon. Not now. Not after Xinjiang. Not after the Uyghur concentration camps. A lot of foreigners are seen as just villains nonstop. And on a personal note, I look forward to going to Taiwan again, because the traditional Chinese culture that I fell in love with survives in Taiwan right now.
And they couldn't see this coming either, right? We're literally opening the door for the greatest threat to democracy, China and the Communist Party there. We're opening the door and making it easy for them, folks.
How? By giving nuclear submarines to Australia for the first time ever?
People like me see it before the people that are in charge of the military. That shouldn't be happening. But I
Well,
want
good, because it isn't.
you guys to open your eyes. I want you guys to be aware. I want you to see it coming so that we can collectively call it out together so that we can end this nonsense, right?
And what nonsense? Call what out? Honest to God. Like, I believe in a fervent defense of Taiwan. This is a very serious geopolitical issue. But Junior is talking out of his ass. And where is in this is the Chinese are going to attack Taiwan if right-wing dipshits who watch Rumble don't say fuck Joe Biden at a football game. What are you doing? What are you going to do? How are you going to contribute to this in any way besides undermining our own government and saying it's weak? And because again, if you're hearing their open borders, it's only coming from a Republican. If you're saying we have a weak, if the only people saying America is weak on the world stage are Republicans.
This is what the Chinese want from the U.S., and they're getting it in spades. We can't let that happen. Well, guys, sometimes you hate...
Again, we can't let that happen. What are you going to do? Dude, you can't even figure out not even to wear a green shirt on a show because of the fear of green screen. I'm not going to go into it too much today, but we absolutely could. You've seen me do it before. I've just got better things to do today. If he was standing up, I would totally do it. But this asshole has no idea about the geopolitical aspects of American, Chinese, and Taiwanese relationships, our relationship with India, what's going on with Australia, the alliance between the UK and Japan to push back the Quad. None of that stuff. He has no fucking idea. He just needs another reason to... All right, hold on. Whoops, hold on. I gotta find a picture real quick. Give me 1 second. It's always so much. Let's see, green screen. There you go. There we go. Now his shirt is black. Done. And then we go in here and let's see. Let me find a picture here that we can use. 1 second. Let's see. Oops, sorry. 1 second. Trump. Yeah, this will work. Let's see. Take this picture. This here, and we grab this guy. Copy image. Drag that over here. Take this over here. Move this guy. Give me 1 second. Is he yapping again? Shut up. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you guys have to hear that. That was very weird. There we go. And then we go... take this. And go add a source. Give me a moment. You guys asked for it. You deserve it. image, add source, add a new one, T-E, whoops, T-E, add source. Let's see, hold on 1 second, real quick. I'm gonna put me in this first, browse. Let's see, desktop, where's this guy? Cancel. Where is it? How do you, PCs, you guys are weird. PCs are weird, this PC. Desktop, there we go. Take that guy, open it, put it in there, done. Then we go to put it down here under vids, and we move it over here, and just like that, he's wearing his favorite, hold on, he does look like he's shitting, it's true. I mean, I think that's, I think that does it, right? I mean, I'm willing to put the extra work in. Who asked for the green screen? Don Jr. asked for the green screen. That's who. That's, oh God, hold on.